Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream presentation. My name is Melissa Favela, and I am the community educator for Southern Caregiver Resource Center. Today, our live stream presentation is fraud and scam prevention for family caregivers. So if you have the chance to get comfortable, maybe grab a pen, notepad, take notes if that's something that you feel might be beneficial to you, please do so. And if not, if you're not in a space where you can do that, please remember that this live stream presentation will be available on demand after it ends. So without further ado, let's get started. Our learning objectives for today are the following. We'll be talking about fraud statistics, the different types of scams, how to hopefully be proactive and prevent scams, and what to do if you think you've been scammed. And this is for both the caregiver and the care receiver. Now, before we jump into it, I do want to say that if someone tells you that they've been scammed, and they're telling you in confidence or they're trying to figure out what to do, always try and answer with kindness and empathy, especially if it's something that happened to your care receiver. Getting angry or becoming defensive usually will stop the conversation or make it worse or shame the individual, when really anybody can be a victim. A great response would be, "I'm sorry, and we'll try and solve it together." Try to be prepared to support your loved ones if they realize that they were victims of fraud. Next slide, please. Now, as always, we like to start off with statistics when it comes to why we're talking about this. Why is this a relevant topic? Well, the United States is one of the countries where most scams and frauds are reported. And California is the state with the highest reports of scams, frauds, and monetary losses in the country. So right there is a great example of why we are talking about this. And to continue with statistics on the next slide, it's important to know that usually scams can be more or less identified by age group. There are some scams that are more popular in certain age groups. For example, people between 30 and 39 make the most reports, as well as people over 60 years old. The people who are ages between 30 and 49 tend to report that they fall prey to investment fraud scams. Those seem to be the frauds and the scams that usually tap into this age group. Now, as for elderly, so 60 years and older, they tend to be tech support scams. So again, this is by no means just the only scams that they might be at risk of falling into, but these are some of the, I guess, most popular, if you will, within these age groups. Now, in 2023, the following were reported: monetary losses of $12.5 billion and 880,000 reports of frauds and scams. And this was reported by the IC3 report, which is part of the FBI. And this is something that we continue seeing growing. It's an upward trend, and it is a real threat to ourselves, our loved ones, and our community. Next slide. Now, let's talk about scam and fraud prevention. And before we jump into the specifics, we want to talk about what does scam mean? What does fraud mean? Because as you see, we're kind of using them interchangeably. But to be specific, fraud is a dishonest action that seeks to deceive to obtain undue benefits or harm others. And a scam is a crime that is committed against assets or property and is perpetrated through deception. So as you can see, these are very similar amongst each other. We will be using both throughout the presentation, but it is important to understand that these can happen to anybody and everybody. Next slide, please. Now, there are different types of scams and frauds. There is a report done by the FBI, and this was published in 2023, that mentioned the most common types of scams and frauds that were reported by people. So, as you can see here, we have a list. We have phishing, violation of personal data, non payment, non delivery, extortion, investment, and technical support. Now, we might have all heard about phishing, especially maybe in your work environment. Maybe if you're part of a support group when it comes to technology, or you're taking classes in community college or in college. Phishing can come in many different forms, but especially it could come through people posing as technical support or someone within your company. That's why we've heard maybe of phishing a lot more in different environments. We've also heard about violation of personal data. This can come through impersonation of government employees, such as Medicare, Social Security, IRS, credit card fraud. Maybe you've heard commercials or on the radio or other avenues that say that these branches of the government or Social Security, for example, will not contact you via text message or email. Then we have non payment, non delivery, and it can come through traditional mail, such as messages that there is a package that requires payment to be delivered. So it is important to remember or understand if we're waiting for a package and that we can contact the company directly versus answering that piece of mail. Then, of course, there's extortion. And this can come through a variety of scams in a variety of ways. But a way that was reported a lot was through romance scams. And so when people who are maybe online dating or romantically involved online get asked for money, and that is considered a romance scam. Then we also have investment, which is where people invest money, or they say that they'll get an amazing return through their investment, and their money disappears. And of course, this is by no means a complete list, as every day there are more and more types of scams and frauds. For example, now with artificial intelligence, there seems to be an increase in scams generated by people using AI to scam other people. So it is important to always stay up to date and understand that there are many, many types of scams and frauds. And this is not to scare, but to inform. Next slide, please. Now, something to note is that usually at the end of the year, there seems to be an increase of scams. And these are called year-end scams or year-end frauds. And this is an increase in reports during the holidays, right? So, for example, we have card decline scams. And this is a scam where you pay for a purchase online, and then you get a message telling that your card has been declined or that the transaction did not go through. And what happens here is that they're trying to get more information out of you. And so maybe you try another card and then they get that number for that other card, right? And so this is something that can happen. Then, of course, there are charity scams. This is a very unfortunate thing that happens at the end of the year, because there are foundations, charities, nonprofits that do depend on end of year donations. But when fake charities come up and they take advantage, right, of donations, and sometimes people are marketed through phone calls, right? They get phone calls saying, please donate money. This is our organization, but it doesn't mean that it is real or legitimate. So if you are donating to charities or foundations or nonprofits, make sure that you know who they are, that you know their work, that you know where you're donating to, and that way you can try and avoid donating to a charity scam. Then we also have online scams or shopping scams. So these are bogus websites that look like the real website, and they can steal your card number, and other information that you might input when you're purchasing something. Then I think this was very popular also at the end of year are gift card scams. This is when people steal gift cards in bulk or off the racks. They collect the information of the card and then return it to the store for unsuspecting buyers. And once you load money on there, the criminals will draw the money off and then sometimes even before you leave the store. So the money that you put into that gift card is available to them and not in the gift card that you purchased. So these are just some highlighted year-end scams for you to be aware of. And again, making sure that if you are making a charitable donation or you are buying gift cards at the end of the year, that you are careful and that you're aware. Next slide, please. So, as family caregivers and as individuals with many, many responsibilities, we have our jobs, our families, we may be raising small children. Having to think about scams or a fraud can be very stressful. It's not something that we want to deal with, obviously. It's not something that we want to think of. But in the following slides, I hope you can find valuable information not only to prevent scams, but also to know what to do in case you or your care receiver falls victim to a scam or fraud. And this is because, again, anybody and everybody can be a victim. It's not something that someone can avoid completely. So it is important to not just say, well, I hope it doesn't happen to me, but also what do I do if it does happen to me? Now, here are some prevention tactics. Preventive actions, these are some steps that you can take and steps that your care receiver maybe can take or you can take for them to avoid being scammed. Now, for example, one of the biggest ways of taking some steps or some actions to prevent scams would be through our telephone. So making sure that we're setting some basic rules to help protect our care receivers. For example, one of the easiest things that we can do is let unknown calls go to voicemail. Usually what happens is that scammers or numbers that we don't recognize, once they go to voicemail, they won't leave a message. So if you don't know a number, you can always let it go to voicemail. And usually scammers will not leave a voice message. Another thing that you can do through the telephone is talk to your phone company and see if they have any services or if they take any extra steps to maybe filter or look into unknown numbers. Another thing that we can do, of course, is communicate. Communicate with our loved ones, our care receivers, our older family members, our children, our teenagers, anybody and everybody. Talk to them. Talk about different scenarios of scams and frauds and maybe what to do. Maybe share an article. If you see something in the news about a new fraud or a new scam, we can talk about it and say, well, what would you do if this happened? Right? How would you act? What would you say? What do you think would be your reaction? Right? And we can always practice with our loved ones or care receivers, encouraging them to say phrases like, no, thank you, or do not call again, or I do not accept offers over the phone if the stranger or the person on the other side of the phone is trying to lure them in or is pressuring them. So it's very important to empower them to say these things. A simple no thank you can be enough. So it is important to talk about it and not just read about it and hope that it doesn't happen to us. Now, here are some prevention suggestions. The first is be attentive to warning signs, especially when we are caring for someone else and maybe we're not completely involved in maybe their financial decisions or in their money management. But it is something where we can still be attentive, right? We want to make sure that if they are missing payments, or if they're getting suspicious mail, maybe directly to their home, if they're running out of money sooner than they should be, etc. So it is important to be attentive to these warning signs that may not be as straightforward. Make sure that we're informed, making sure that we're up to date on the latest scam trends. And thankfully, San Diego County does have a lot of information regarding this. So there is always available information or workshops similar to this where you can get this type of information. And try to be tech savvy or use technology wisely, making sure that we have antivirus software on our mobile devices, our electronic devices, our laptops, computers, that we're using secure networks and not just using any Wi-Fi that comes up, that we update our devices regularly, and that we monitor our transactions. If you are someone who is comfortable using technology, this makes it a little simpler, right? Because you can check your online banking, you can check it at any moment. You maybe have the easiness of understanding how to update your device regularly. However, if we are caring for someone who is not as tech savvy or they're not as comfortable with technology, we do want to be a little bit more proactive with them and help them get these things. Maybe we can include them in our antivirus software plan. Maybe when we visit them, we can ask them to update their device. Maybe we can set up a schedule of monitoring their transactions or helping them to, if it's something where they like to go into the bank or the ATM and get it printed out. So it is important to be aware, to stay on top of these things as much as possible, and helping our care receivers to also be as ready to prevent these types of scams and fraud as possible. Now, a big thing that we should all try to do, and I think most of us want to do, is be proactive. We want to be attentive to the warning signs, as I mentioned before. But when it's happening, if we're receiving a phone call, if the website that we're visiting, something feels off, if we get an email and there is something in there that feels wrong, it probably is. And think about it as a way of saying, I'd rather protect myself now and cancel the transaction or log off of the website or maybe delete the email. And then if it is something legitimate, they usually will reach out again. Or we can always look at the company and try to reach out directly to them. For example, if it's a phone call stating that they're calling from our bank, right? Well, if something feels off, if they want a lot of our information, we can always say, well, actually, I can't talk right now. We hang up, and then we can call our bank directly, and the number behind our debit card, credit card, or even go directly into the branch. So again, if something feels wrong, it probably is. So it's good to be skeptical. It's good to be cautious. Don't fall for the sense of urgency. A lot of times, what happens during these calls or these emails is that they want you to act fast. It's something that's urgent. It's something that you have to do right away. Otherwise, it's trouble for you, right? Well, it is important to take a moment, pause, verify the interaction. This can prevent becoming a victim of scams and fraud. And same thing for our older adults or our care receivers, making sure that we're letting them know, hey, these are usually tactics that scammers use. They want you to answer in the moment. They want to push you. They want to pressure you. If a company is legitimate, they will give you the opportunity to say, I need to verify something. I will call you back, right? So it is important to make sure that we're pausing and that we're verifying the interaction as much as possible. And again, being skeptical, right? That is something that we can do. If something feels wrong, it probably is. So a lot of it is being proactive. understanding how scams can happen, and then taking some small steps to prevent it going further. Now, here are some things to consider. Scams are specially designed to catch us off guard. And that is something that, again, thinking about our daily lives, all of the things that we do, dealing with traffic, we have to go to work, dropping off the kids at school, spending time with our care receiver, grocery shopping, with all of the things that we have to do in our daily life. It scams can definitely catch us off guard. So it is important to again understand if we get a phone call, if we get an email, a letter, that we verify the interaction, that we pause. Even though we know that we don't have a ton of extra time for anything else, it's better to catch it and not fall for a scam or fraud. So just something to consider. Something else to consider, and I've said it throughout the presentation, is that it can happen to anyone. It is something that it doesn't feel great to fall prey to a scam or fraud, but thinking that it can happen to anybody. And if the statistics that we mentioned earlier in the presentation are any sign, it has happened to thousands and thousands of people. So don't be ashamed if you think you've been scammed. Make sure that you reach out, that you take steps to see what can you do to maybe recuperate money that you lost, or to make a report, or to help your loved one if they think they've been scammed. So again, we know that it's not something easy to go through. We know that it definitely does not feel good, but don't be ashamed. Many people are going through it or have gone through it. And so by speaking up, by saying, hey, this happened to me, you can also help others avoid being prey to a scam or to certain types of fraud. So what can you do if you've been scammed? Well, the first thing is to contact the relevant authorities. There are options for you. So one of the authorities that you can contact is your local police department. Make sure that you file a report. If it's something to do with your bank or your credit card, your debit card, make sure that you notify your bank, especially if money has disappeared from your accounts. If this is happening to an older adult or your care receiver, you can also reach out to Adult Protective Services. They are a resource to help our older loved ones. We can also place credit card alerts with relevant agencies, and try to again contact relevant authorities. The police department may also give you other numbers to call or further steps to take. Then we can also report the scam and fraud. And this is something that we can report to the Federal Trade Commission and even to the FBI. So it is important to report what happened, what the scam was, what the fraud was, because this allows them to build information and really help other people by letting them know, hey, this is something new, or this is something that's happening more often. And then also make sure that you share your experience. If you feel comfortable, of course, we understand that it may be difficult, but it can help others prevent falling prey to certain scams or fraud. Next slide, please. So, having experienced a situation in which you or your care receiver have fallen victim to a scam can be very difficult. It can bring up not just logistical issues, but also many emotions to the surface. So, feel that feeling of shame, anger, frustration, all of these may arise. And often, when experiencing a scam or fraud, we do not know what to do or who to contact. So, I hope that this presentation gave you a little bit more information and empowers you to understand that you are not alone and that services are available to assist you. If the person that you care for has been scammed, it is important to respond with kindness and empathy. getting angry with them or becoming defensive generally shuts down the conversation, or it can make it worse. And again, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, a pretty good response is saying, I'm sorry this happened to you. We can figure this out together. Even though where we may not be at a stage where we know exactly what to do, but the point here is to offer some comfort and support. And as family caregivers, we know that that's what we should do, and that is what we do. We offer support, we offer care, and we are there for the person that we care for. Now, for additional resources, these are some excellent resources that you can reach out to when it comes to fraud and scam prevention: elder law and advocacy, AARP, San Diego County District Attorney, and the San Diego County Sheriff's Office. So it is important to know that there are resources available to you, that there are organizations out there who will help you figure this out if it has happened to you or a loved one. Now, as always, if you're not familiar with Southern Caregiver Resource Center, this is a snapshot of the services that we offer. We are a nonprofit located here in San Diego County, and we do serve all of San Diego County and Imperial County. We offer family consultation, support groups, individual counseling, legal and financial consultation, education and training. We are also part of the GUIDE program. We offer employer resources, specialized information. We also offer respite, which is limited and needs-based, and of course, many, many more online resources. Now, part of our online resources can be found in the iCare portal. You can access the iCare portal by logging into our website, www.caregivercenter.org. And this is where you can find quick tip videos called Caregiver Corner. You can also listen to our podcast episodes, in which each month we invite a guest that has an area of specialty related to caregiving, and the podcast is called Let's Talk Caregiving. You can also watch other videos similar to this one under our family caregiver classes. And you can also sign up to our digital newsletter, Wavelengths, in which you can find out what's going on with SCRC, keep updated with events, news, and articles. We are also active on social media, and you can connect with us there by scanning this QR code. We are active in Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. And of course, for more information, to access our services, or for any question you may have, you can send us a message or visit us at www.caregivercenter.org, or you can call us toll free at 800-827-1008 or 858-268-4432. With this, I want to thank you so much for allowing me into your space today, and I hope this was helpful to you to give you more information on how to prevent falling to a scam or fraud for both you and your care receiver. Thank you so much, and see you next month.